So, welcome everyone, and welcome to this week's installment of ClueCon Weekly. This week with us, we have Arpit Modi, co-founder and director at iNextrix Technologies. And thank you, Arpit, for being with us today.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Cool. We're here to talk about what iNextrix has been doing. They have a new, very interesting platform that's based around AI and other things. They've been in the telephony space for a long time. But I'll let Arpit introduce himself and his company, and then we'll go into the meat of the discussion.
Sure, Luca. Thank you for this wonderful opportunity. My name is Arpit Modi. I'm director and co-founder of iNextrix Technologies Private Limited, a leading telecom software provider company. I'm having total more than 13 years of experience now in information and communication technology, and I have been working as a director in iNextrix since last 10 years. iNextrix was founded 10 years back by me and Samir Doshi. So we are two directors and founders, main founders of the company. Uh, at iNextrix, our main vision is to empower small businesses to large enterprises through futuristic telecom software solutions, which enable them to deliver complete services and remarkable customer experience. With this vision, we have been catering our hundreds of customers more over a decade and around the globe. So this is what iNextrix is all about.
Nice. That's very interesting. Yeah, you've been around for a while. Then you've been. So, what's the latest project you've worked on? What's the latest product you've released? What is that's always interesting to look at.
Sure. Actually, in iNextrix, we are having multiple products, and those are based on telecom. As I said, we mainly focus on the telecom products, but I would be mainly focused on the iCallify. iCallify is an intelligent call center software that is built using the smart algorithms and the cutting edge technologies. The main objective of iQualify is increasing reach, sales, and customer satisfactions of its users. So it's a complete omni-channel contact center software which can be integrated with any third-party software, and it can increase like sales, it can increase the agent productivity, efficiency, and ultimately it increase the ROI of its users. So that's what iQualify is about. Apart from
Nice.
iQualify, yeah, apart from iQualify, we are having many other products such as ASTBB, that's open source, a smart telephony platform that is built using FreeSwitch. And apart from that, we are also having a live call monitoring tool. Then we are having a SIP dialer that works on Android and iPhones,
Mhm.
and a PC dialer that can work on a Windows systems as a soft phone. So these are some products and solutions offered by iNextrix.
That's very interesting. So, what technology stack is your are your projects built in general? If you can say, but I mean, you can probably say at least the language or some others. That's always interesting.
Yeah, basically we are mainly focusing on the open source technologies
Oh,
such as
nice.
like yeah we are building on using the FreeSwitch Asterisk as a telephonics engine. Then we are using PHP, Perl, Python. Then we also use Node.js. So all the latest technologies we try to include in our product such that we can keep it improved based on the latest needs and the technology demands such that we can fulfill all the desired requirements from our customers.
What's it? So, you mentioned Frizzwitch. I'm curious. So, SignalWire is the Frizzwitch company at this point, and
Yeah,
we've been keeping the open source part going very well. There's a lot of new stuff.
I
Actually,
know.
I think people were worried about Frizzwitch being part of SignalWire, but now they've seen that we've done more releases and they're better releases because we have a full team that's dedicated 24/7, and they only do that. So that's actually more money for Frizzwitch. So that's great. But what do you use FreeSwitch for? Just curious.
We will use. I mean, we are using many modules in the FreeSwitch. As I told you, like ASTBP is built on FreeSwitch, so we are
Hmm.
using all the modules, major components like the CDR, then the Sophia modules for making the calls, Then we are also using the queue and the conference modules to provide the PBX functionalities. We have built some custom dial plans on the using the Lua. Lua is one another programming language which we use as to build the AGIs and other part. So these are some modules we are using in FreeSwitch.
Nice. Yeah. The Lua is very often used by the FreeSwitch team too. We have a lot of
Yes.
things that have been built in Lua themselves. Yeah, it's a great scripting language. I'm more of a mod XML curl person, if you ask me. Like I
Yes.
generally do that. I generally do everything in mod XML curl. Just have my web app, and then it returns the XML for whatever it needs to do. But it's another way to do it. I mean, Lua is self-contained, doesn't need that an external service. So there's that too. Another question that maybe you can ask for, maybe not. How are your platforms deployed? Do you use any containerization? Do you use Kubernetes, Docker? None of that.
Yeah. We have recently started using the Kubernetes, and we are also using the Jenkins for the continuous deployment and other stuff. But it's in beta. We can say we are not using it on a regular basis, but very soon we will be deploying or using it for all our projects.
Oh, yeah. See, that's an answer I get very commonly. Like, it sounds like for how long Kubernetes has been around, many companies, especially in our space, are really only started now to take a
Yeah.
look, to work it, probably because it's complicated and the
Yeah.
documentation is better now.
Yeah, it is much more better now because we tried before few years, like 2 3 years ago, but we couldn't get the success. But yeah, on this year we got enough time to explore it more. We checked the documentation part, and now we are all set to go. So we'll be using it for our future projects.
Hmm. Yeah, that's. I mean, internally we use Docker Swarm. That's not a secret.
Yeah,
And our CTO Evan McKee has spoken about it at length at various conferences,
right,
and because we find it more compact. But Kubernetes has become the standard these days. So really, yeah, it's still great to see that it's open source, and there are so many things you can do with the open source. With the open source software that used to not be possible back in the day.
right.
Cool. So let's go into some industry stuff. What's your typical customer for iCallify? You have so many products, so let's focus on one.
Yeah,
Otherwise, it's
right.
what's
Yeah,
your
sure,
typical
sure.
customer? How many agents do they have? What industry they're in? That kind of stuff.
We have customers starting from 5 agent to 2,000 or 3,000 agents.
Wow.
Yeah. Exactly. If I talk about like the major industry, then the major industries are the banks or the pharma industry, because as you know, in the pandemic time, the pharma industry was booming, and
Yeah.
that was the main reason. Even the hospitals are also our customers. They are also using the iQualify, and apart from that, there are many BPO and KPO services. They are using the iQualify. So as I told you, our customer range is starting from 5 agents to like 3,000 agents. Recently, we have deployed one architecture, that's a cluster architecture. And for that, to accommodate like 2,000 agents, we had a huge cluster setup of 8 to 10 servers. In that, multiple servers were included. We provided high availability, as well as we provided the load balancing services. So we made a distributed setup of iQualify on multiple servers to accommodate the 2,000 agents, such that it can load balance everything.
So you mentioned load balancing. So iCallify is not cloud based. It's an on-premise install.
Well, it can be installed on premise as well as on cloud. So if a customer, it depends on the customer need. We
Mm-hmm.
provide the software. So if customer is looking
But
for
it
the
is not
solution,
a platform as a service. Like every company buys their own
exactly,
license and runs
exactly,
their own thing.
exactly.
Oh, yeah, interesting. Cool. Yeah, there's a space for that kind of solutions still. Like our work solution, which is what we're using right now, was built kind of the same way, and we had very good success with it. So there's a space for everything. Not everybody
Exactly.
wants to be in the public cloud for sure. That's especially
Exactly. So
healthcare,
yeah,
etc.
exactly, the healthcare and even the banking, because see, the
Mm.
information are very, very crucial. So they still don't prefer to go on the cloud. They want the server to be on premise, and they want the setup on premise, and they want to secure the database and everything, like anything, so they want the highest security such that the data must not be revealed anywhere. So this
Yeah,
type, in such scenarios, the on premise setup will work better than the cloud, we can say, as per their need.
yeah. Plus, many countries or regions like Europe in general,
Yep.
Arabia, have a mandate for data not to ever leave the country. So that makes
Right.
it even easier to necessary to have something like that.
Correct.
Sorry. So the I was looking at the impressive feature list that iCallify has, and I'm an engineer, so I come from a world where I've done a lot of testing on answering machine detection. So I'm
Okay.
really curious, what kind of answering machine detection do you use? Which is it? One of the open source modules? Are you doing something else? What's the what are you using
Okay. We are currently using the open source module of the answering machine detection.
on
But yes,
FreeSwitch?
in part, yeah, no, on Asterisk.
The
On
Asterisk
Asterisk.
AMD, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So AMD application is there. That's what we are using as of now in iQualify. But yes, in past we had a customer, and for that we had the hardware-based answering machine detection I mean the hardware that was integrated in the software, and that's how we were able to detect the answering machine. I don't remember the exact name of that hardware, but we had integrated that as well. So it's open to use anything.
Yeah, the AMD is always. I mean, the AMD application from Asterisk is actually quite good. I'll be honest. I find it's probably the best open source implementation that's out there right now. It's
Yeah, it's pretty much accurate actually.
yeah, it is. It is. If people are willing to put up, so you've certainly heard people ask you, "Can we do perfect answering machine detection, but it has to take less than a second?"
Oh my
or
God.
yeah, that's or 2 seconds or whatever. Everybody should
Yeah,
know that answering machine detection actually listens to what's being said, so it can't take half a second. It will take whatever it takes, but if it's accurate, at least it's very very helpful for sure. Are you using
exactly.
any WebRTC components in your products for now, or is it still only SIP based?
No, we are also using the WebRTC based web phone in our platform such that the agents can log in into the agent portal and start making and receiving the calls from the platform itself, regardless of using any kind of soft phone or IP phone or hard phone. So we are using an open source based WebRTC module. It is integrated with iQualify.
Yeah. So the WebRTC has been taking a lot of ground lately. So I think it's where we're going, which leads me into a question for you. As someone who's been in the industry for a long time and knows the industry very well, what do you think? Where do you think we're going? What's going to be the next big thing, and that kind of thing? So, what are your customers asking for that you don't have yet?
Well, the answer is pretty like it's very confusing sometimes because customers almost need everything. You know, the iQualify, if I talk about iQualify, it's a complete omni-channel contact center software. It includes like calls, SMS, email, chat, WhatsApp, social media, and even help desk ticketing. But still, when we get an inquiry from the customer, or when we I mean provide the solution to customer, sometimes they ask like, I want like video tool as well, I want like these things to be integrated, like the new CRM to be integrated. Then they also want like the AI tools, like
Mm,
emotion detection. Then also they I mean they are looking for everything in a single platform. So I'm not sure like what exactly and how exactly this demand of the customer will be stopped. But yes, as far as we are going ahead with the technology to meet customers' requirement, we will have to keep evolving ourselves as well. As a software solution provider, we have to keep adding new things, we have to keep checking it, and we have to keep delivering some interesting and new advanced features to the customers. So like I said, I was in last week, I was in a discussion with one of the customer, and he is looking for a solution integrated in iQualify where he can detect the emotions of the agent as well as
mm,
the customer. So based on that, he wants to have a report. In that, he wants to check whether the customer was angry or the agent was angry on the call. How was the performance of that agent? Was it a content? Was it like disturbed? Or so kind of different emotions we need to detect. Do you know, like, in every call center, there are almost like 5 to 10% of calls are problematic.
Hmm.
The rest 90% are almost like it's a normal call where the agent is picking up the call or making the call, talk with the customer, and the query gets resolved. But only 5 to 10% calls are problematic. So
Oh,
why by using by using such tools like the emotional management or something like that, so it can have a clear, crisp report where the manager can check out, like, okay, these are the 5 or 10% of problematic calls, and he just needs to check out that based on the emotional level he set up. So that's the project I was in a discussion with the customer last week, and probably we'll be going ahead with that in upcoming few days. So we are
that's
also doing some R&D on the same.
that's super nice. Wow, that's really
Yeah.
really interesting. So yeah, sentiment analysis has been coming up more and more. I think
Yes.
for now the problem is still the cost per minute of something like that because customers want it, but then you go build it and it's like $3 per minute because it's
Yeah.
expensive and they don't
Exactly.
want it anymore. So the I think what's going to change there is there's some open source libraries, especially speech recognition stuff like deep speech, etc. We are actually getting better, almost quite good. The Caldi stuff, there's a few. So I think until we get that kind of ASR you can run without having to shell out to an external process, which is actually expensive, that's going to be quite an issue.
Yeah. And
That's pricing.
I'm
It's
like
great,
a
but it's expensive.
yeah. Yeah. But see, from my initial career, I have been a quite a huge lover of open source technologies, because I started my career as a software engineer, and I got an opportunity to work on many open source technologies. So by exploring many open source web platforms, I get to know, like, open source is the future. Yeah, because a lot of things are developed on the open source tools, and as you just mentioned, like, okay, for emotional things or for voice simulation as well as voice tracking, we can have many more open source tools available in the market.
Yeah, it's going to get more interesting, and it's going to garner
Yeah,
more interest as the open source tools improve. Granted, what we need to do as companies operating in the space is making sure we give back even a little. Like
right.
those projects would need. We've been there. I've been there in first person building a Ruby framework called Addition. I'm seeing that at SignalWire now, giving back to the open source projects that have been helping the companies is important because otherwise they just freeze and die out and you never get to the point where it's useful. It is quite a conundrum. We had a good chat a few days ago about open source communities, and there's something happening. You know what I noticed? Maybe I don't know if you're involved in any open source projects, but I've noticed the amount of people sending you contributions out of the blue, like you're just using them and you get a pull request on GitHub, has gone down a lot.
Yeah.
Used to be that a lot. One day you just wake up, open your email, and there will be a pull request by someone who said, you didn't have answering machine detection, so I implemented it because I needed it.
Oh my God.
It's not happening anymore. It's so weird. So that's probably where we as an industry are not really being able to involve people right now. It's just I mean, it's probably because people need to be paid for work, so they don't do work for free. But it's been strange. It's changed a lot. It's changed a lot since 2015 or 16. It's not even recent. It's a few years. So it
Yep.
has I don't know if you've seen that too, but feels weird. So that's something us as an industry with large players in the industry we need to be aware of and probably try and help out with. Cool.
Right.
So do you have any customers in the US?
Yeah, we do have few customers in US.
And what do you know about Stur Shaken? What do you think about Stur Shaken? Have you looked at the standard, the coal fraud prevention standard that the U.S. is pushing on others. Are you supporting that? Are you planning on supporting that? It's still in the air for us.
Yeah, actually, I get to know from about these fraud detection and everything from one of my customers. They provided us all the information necessary, and we are implementing that as well in our iQualify software. So we will be meeting all the standards of major countries which they wants to follow us and to prevent the fraudulent activities and such this. So we are making our software better and better to cope up with that.
Yeah, then the Signal Wire will soon be able to sign and verify calls too. And as you know, FreeSwitch itself includes a very, I would call it, so people get angry at me, but it's the de facto reference implementation of Stur, which is libstur, which we released as open source as part of our effort, and it's been using Camellia too now, and it's very good. So it's a very good tool to try. You're probably using that, but just in case, maybe go take a look. I think
Yeah,
it was built well. In case you need to experiment, well, let me know. We can chat about it later.
yeah,
But the
sure.
idea is that it also has command line tools, so you could have another process that doesn't actually support Stir Shaken, shell out the command line tool, have it check the certificate, and then return yes or no. And that makes the
Wow.
integrations much easier because more or less, for example, Asterisk can call any script, right? So you could have a
Yep.
script calling this other calling the libstur command line and just returning valid or not valid. It's a very good starting point. Signing calls is going to be interesting. What I found silly and weird is that only the US seems to care. Like
Yeah.
Europe hasn't even talked about implementing the kind of standard. India hasn't. India has the highest number of phones in the world. And
Yeah.
still, people seem to not care very much because I think India has less population than China, but there's more phones in India than in China.
Yeah,
So
that's
there's
correct.
I think it's the country in the world with the highest number of phones. So there has to be a high number of spam calls. I don't know why. It looks like for me, Stir is a great initiative, and SignalWire does its best to support it, etc. But at the same time, maybe it came out a little bit too complicated or too United States centric.
Mhm.
So it only works in the United States because of how it's written out. I don't know. I'm sure experts will have anything to say, etc. But I mean, India doesn't have anything like that, right?
No, it doesn't have anything like that. But as you said, like the population is huge and the number of phones are even like more than any other country in the world. But
Yeah.
still, it hasn't been implemented. But I'm on this side like okay, if it has to be implemented, then it is really a great idea and it must be there in all the countries. Yeah,
Yeah, it is. That's probably the thing. If it's not implemented by everyone in some level, it just doesn't work as well because
exactly.
it's like you
Yeah,
have a
but
country that doesn't have a law. If something is legal in a country but not in all the surrounding countries, people will just go there and do the thing.
exactly, exactly.
So
It
it is.
happens. People
Yeah.
are always finding the workarounds. Like if it is not working here, let's go there.
Also, there's a lot of money in those robocalls, automated calls,
Yeah,
and spam calling. So they will find a way because they have a lot of money. They're almost criminal, so they have a lot of money because they don't pay taxes because it's illegal. So it's an interesting fight. Cool. So just to wrap it up, where are your what percentage of your customers do you have that's not in India? Just curious.
most of our customers are out of India. I can
Oh,
say
cool, nice.
yeah, I can say only 5% customers are in India and 95% are in different countries like US, Canada, then Europe, Africa. So this is it. Like we are not having more customers in India, but almost like
Well,
95% customers out of the India.
that's great. I mean, it's great to hear. So, just to wrap it up, what about Africa? You mentioned Africa. You think I think it's a market that has been neglected a little, and
Yeah.
the industry should probably focus there to try and get some business out of there.
Exactly. Actually, African countries are the emerging countries they are lacking the technologies. So what we should do, we should be supporting the African countries, and we should check out like whether where exactly and how exactly they can improve their infrastructures. So we have been working with many African customers, and we have been improving the infrastructures. I mean the telecom infrastructures they are having. I can see even in today's day, like today's era, the people are still using the landline phones in Africa as a customer support phone. So it's very like very hard process. Like when you are getting a multiple calls and you are just handling one landline phone to tackle all your customers, then you are just losing the business. So we are also helping them to improve the infrastructure such that they can also grow. And the market is very huge. People are very nice in Africa. So I think the entire world should focus on Africa such that they will be also improved, and they can also get the benefit of the businesses.
Yeah, I think there's an infrastructure discussion that's actually pretty important there. Some
Yes,
countries don't have anything else that is not a 2G cell network, which
yes,
makes it far more complicated to handle. But the emerging countries are doing great.
yes,
Well, yeah, so thank you for everything. It was a great chat. We went through your product, main features. We did a good chat about the industry, which is always nice. And well, I hope maybe I can see you at ClueCon in October, or maybe even just in
sure.
video. Who knows? I'd be super happy to meet you. And which reminds me, go register. Call for papers is still open until the end of the month. So please, if you want to submit a speech, if you'd like to, or anybody else in the audience would like to submit a speech, please do it by the end of the month so we can get things organized. It will be sort of a hybrid event, so it's going to be video and in person.
Wow.
So whatever works for you guys is going to be great. And thank you, Arpit, for joining us today. It was a great chat. And for everybody else, I'll see you next week.
Yeah, thank you so much, Luca, for this wonderful opportunity. It was pleasure talking with you as well. And yeah, definitely we'll try to see you in ClueCon. Yeah,
Thank you so much. See you soon.
thank you so much. Have a nice day. Bye.